Bitcoin is a constant struggle between the bulls and the bears, each trying to push the price one way or the other. In October of 2014, an incursion occurred between the two sides that saw Bitcoin's now infamous bear whale emerge for the very first time and plunge the markets into turmoil and disarray. This is the story and slaying of Bitcoin's bear whale. It has been almost 1 year since the peak of the 2013 bull market that saw Bitcoin price break $1,000 for the very first time. 440 that had acted as support has just fallen, and new yearly lows are being made daily. 300 is fast approaching and now seems all but inevitable. In the early morning on the 6th of October, the price suddenly slips below 320 as a market sell order of 2,000 Bitcoin instantly sends the price tumbling to $300. Panic quickly spreads and grasps the market, and 10 minutes later, another sell order for around 24,000 Bitcoin hits the Bitstamp order books at $300. A seemingly insurmountable wall valued at $7.2 million dwarfs the bits. Almost immediately, however, a shift occurs. People stop selling and, in an unwritten understanding, come together to take on something bigger than themselves. Buy orders begin hitting the books, chipping away, but for every coin that was bought, another seemed to take its place. Others set up their own buy walls to try and absorb selling pressure, attempting to push the price lower. These defences are rocky at first, but hold steady for the most part, dipping only slightly here and there. 1 hour passes. The wall, unmoving and unflinching, ominously continues to sit, neither side showing signs of giving in. 2 hours turns into 3 as the night draws on, the wall finally beginning to shift slightly, dipping below 2,000 Bitcoin, with thanks to a few large sporadic buy orders of over 1,000 Bitcoin each. At 4:30 UTC, price begins to slip another couple of percentage points, but just as it seems the defences are breaking, another 1,000 Bitcoin buy order fills the books, keeping on the pressure and rallying support in a show of confidence. This wall was going to fall. At 5:40 UTC, less than 15,000 Bitcoin remain. Buy orders are flooding the order book. No matter how small, everyone is doing their part. 20 minutes later, a market buy of 3,000 Bitcoin pulls the wall to below 10,000. 5 minutes after that, a cascade of orders flood the books, buying up over 8,000 Bitcoin, and by 6:10, it's all over. In total, 34,410 Bitcoin, valued at $10,323,000, was sold by the bear whale. The incursion lasted 6 hours and has forever left its mark in the order books. A piece of artwork was created by Mill Marbury the day after to commemorate the event. The waves shaped as a reminder of the pattern forever etched into those charts. Whilst there was much celebration and reinvigorated morale, the price would eventually go lower as the bear market dragged on throughout 2015. However, just as it looked like this chapter in Bitcoin's history would be closed, on May 24th, 2017, a post was submitted to Reddit that nobody was expecting, titled, "I am the bear whale, UASF now." It contained a corresponding signed version of a message from an address that used to contain over 34,000 Bitcoin, whose last transaction took place just hours before the 2014 incursion. The bear whale, it seemed, had returned, after all these years, with a new message. It read, "Hello, I am the bear whale. After a series of bad experiences with the banking system, I invested most of my life savings into Bitcoin when the price was fairly low, around $8. For years I was a hodler. I was holding when Trend and Shaves ripped everybody off, I was holding when the price was over 1,000, and I held when Mt. Gox imploded. I believe strongly in Bitcoin's decentralized promise of displacing immoral national currencies. The price kept drifting downwards until finally at a little over $300, I had enough. I sold off everything based on an accumulation of information I gathered mostly from social media such as bitcointalk.org and Reddit. The block size limit of 1 megabyte was a threat to Bitcoin's future. Satoshi's vision was unlimited block sizes. Gavin was ousted by a cabal of self-interest engineers, aka Blockstream. Blockstream took control of Bitcoin's source code repository. Famous colluded with Blockstream to censor block size increase discussions. The subreddit r/Bitcoin heavily censored block size increase discussions. Blockstream wanted the block size low to promote its proprietary Lightning network. Gregory Maxwell was a bad actor and Luke Dash Jr. was a religious nut. The market agreed with the above, leading to the then declining price towards $300. At this point, I should state that I am a highly technical person. I understand all of the math behind the Bitcoin white paper and the software that powers it. Although I am not a security expert, nor am I a cypherpunk. Only a little experience in the type of adversarial thinking necessary to be a competent steward of the technology. I don't regret selling, as I made an enormous profit. The decision was a rational one based on available information. However, in 2017, I went all in on Bitcoin again, and here's why. None of the supposed facts which motivated my decision to sell were correct. It was all a carefully crafted and funded disinformation campaign launched by Roger Ver and his cronies, perhaps Jihan Wu, to discourage improvements to the Bitcoin protocol to achieve financial gain at the expense of the community. Once I recognised the moves to discredit the core developers for what was a covertly operated smear campaign fought on social media, funded by enormous enrichment of Bitcoin, carried out with sock puppets and appeals to emotion, I looked at the Bitcoin and greater community again with a more critical eye, and I came to the following conclusions. Bitcoin is working great. Look at the fees people are willing to pay. Resistance to poorly thought out protocol changes is a feature, not a bug. Core developers are highly competent from reading the mailing list. SegWit is incredibly well engineered to create the least network disruption. The subreddit rbtc is filled with negativity and meaningless attacks. Roger Ver is a conman who uses his bitcoin.com domain to push his own agenda. Bitcoin mining is centralized due to Bitmain's temporary monopoly on retail hardware. ASIC Boost is an exploit which has broken some economic incentives of Bitcoin. Absent of Bitmain, Bitcoin is far superior to altcoins. Although I am of course an adult fully responsible for my decisions, I want to make it clear that Roger Ver's agenda was successful at convincing me that Bitcoin had a governance crisis and was at risk of being overtaken by altcoins. My reason for this open letter is simple. I want the community to know that I fully support the core developers. I'm strongly in favour of UASF as a mechanism for eliminating the centralising effect of miner control illusions. I support SegWit as a sensible technology for moving Bitcoin forward. I reject a block size increase hard fork at the current time. I reject a phony compromise, and I thoroughly resent and reject a consortium of suits coming to an agreement on what source code base will be named Bitcoin, without that code base being thoroughly vetted over a suitable long time frame by industry professionals. Those industry professionals include Gregory Maxwell and most of the people who participate regularly on the Bitcoin developers mailing list and contribute pull requests to the Bitcoin core repository. The responses were mostly nostalgic, with one user saying, "I was part of the expedition sent to slay you. You fought well." Another asking if it would be more appropriate to call you a bull whale now. After the sale, even though the price did jump back up, the bear whale reported feeling just fine, adding, "Don't feel sorry for me." After all, they had turned their original investment of around $270,000 into over $10 million. According to further posts, their buyback price was just over $1,000, something they described as mentally challenging, having sold it all at $300. It is never declared how many coins they bought, but even if they purchased back only 10% of their original holdings, they would have ended up with over $80 million by the end of 2017. When asked about altcoins, they stated they held none, and as for Ethereum, I thought code is law. I lost the small interest I had in Ethereum when they forked to save the DAO, and I prefer Bitcoin. There were suggestions that Bear Whale was in fact a core developer, however they rejected the suggestions, stating, "I have not written any source code for Bitcoin Core, either accepted or rejected. I have not ever posted in the Bitcoin Dev mailing list, although I do read it now. They would also double down on their criticisms in their main post, writing of Roger Ver, "What exactly is he good at? He doesn't make anything, design anything, has no trade skills as far as I can detect. He's just good at running his mouth and gaining people's confidence." As for Gavin Andresen, I never did like how Gavin Andresen had to go around begging with hat in hand to be paid to work on Bitcoin. I much prefer the current situation, where there are a couple of for-profit companies, Blockstream included, whose business depends on Bitcoin being the most successful cryptocurrency. This way the smart people can get paid without the need to panhandle for donations, and there is financial incentive to do a great job. When it came to the SegWit 2x proposal, they wrote, "The grave technical ignorance plainly displayed in the Silbert agreement is so staggering, in depth, that I cannot fathom how they arrived at such conclusions." And in another post along similar lines, they said, "When I hear a little compromise in the context of the scaling debate, it sounds no different to me than a little centralization." They further went on to express a belief that raising the block size should be the last resort, and that Lightning and SegWit and all other technical solutions should be explored first, suggesting even that maybe 1 megabyte may be too large. Some users, however, remained unconvinced the poster was who they claimed, as certain historical timings appeared to be off. There were accusations of rewriting history, something the Bear Whale acknowledged, stating, "You're right, that some of it I didn't piece together until later, but even in 2014 there was a now noticeable big block campaign, and also a maligning of G. Maxwell and other developers." As someone who was active during this period, I remember the initial concerns being raised around this time. There's even this article from CoinDesk back on October 8th of 2014 titled "Gavin Andresen proposes Bitcoin hard fork to address network scalability." These concerns levied against the Bear Whale were typically accompanied with the allegation that the whole post was simply fake and most likely propaganda. It is possible, but highly unlikely the post was forged, given the other evidence available to us. This is the last time we would hear from the Bear Whale, and for now they appear to have retired from the public discourse.